Well, today's episode, as you know, I did not do any reviews on Friday, but however, I did miss out on a few I did not realize. As you probably know, we already have, of course, No Surrender by TNA, so we got that. So we're going to review from A to Z. We are going to witness, of course, the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team titles on the line, and the same thing with the TNA World Championship as well, and plenty other special matches as well. And then we have, of course, Stardom with their much recent show in Korakuen Hall, the Stardom Nighter in Korakuen, featuring many matches. Of course, one is the High Speed Championship, which is going to be fun. This will be, of course, Yuna Mizumori's second title defense against Momo Kogo. And then, of course, the main event features a 12-woman tag team match. On one side, we have six members of Hate teaming up. They take on a very interesting combination between, of course, members of Cosmic Angels, God's Eye, and Stars, which is, of course, factions that dealt with Hate for a long time. So we'll see how that plays out too. And then we have the recent ChocoPro that, of course, happened on the 7th of February, but was not uploaded on their YouTube just recently. But however, our last review is going to feature, of course, AEW Grand Slam Australia. Most championships, of course, we have the AEW World Championship, the TNT title, the AEW Women's World Tag Team belts, and of course we have a tornado mixed tag team match, which of course the loser will be losing their hair. And I think we all kind of agree who's that going to be. But of course, as always, we'll wrap up our episode as usual with some news updates, give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information is unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got through Nike Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us and click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough of the jibber jabbers. Let's get to it. So, let's begin with ChocoPro number 402. Okay, ChocoPro number 402. Now, this was, of course, back on February 7th, but it was not uploaded on their YouTube channel until, of course, February 13th, and this took place at Ichigaya Square. As always, we had the opening with Emi Sakura greeting the fans, giving the information of course, the matches. However, Emi Sakura, as you know, later on she participated in another exhibition match, but this time we do have another trainee who's making her debut, of course, of who she is. To everybody gets to know her. Her name is, of course, I think her name is Chiyu. I thought it was Rin. No, Rin is the one who wears glasses, but no. Chiyu is another. I think I may have heard in one of the bigger shows they mentioned two trainees, and I think this is one of them. So Chiyu, I have to say, she's still person we still haven't figured out. She's like almost like Kaho, but a bit more different. I don't know exactly. I don't know if she has like the same kind of cuteness as Kaho does, but unfortunately, she did not pick up the win on the match, which normally happens all the time. But we'll see how that plays out too. Now, our first match, we have a six-person tag match. Team number one, we have Kaho Hiromi teaming up with Sayaka Obihiro, aka Obi, and also Shin Suzuki. They take on Chiko Shikawa, Tokiko Kiyahara, and of course Sayaka. Now, of course, many of you know whenever I see the two Sayakas involved, I call Sayaka Obihiro Obi. That way we all know who it is. That way there'll be no confusion, of course. However, one thing it was interesting is to see Chi, Tokiko, and Sayaka. They team up. Many of you may not know this. These three girls debuted around the same time. They are part of the same generation of ChocoPro back when it was known as Gatumu back in the day, and they teamed up, and they have been very well together. But however, they're facing a different type of makeshift team. You have Kaho, who has less experience in the ring. You have Sayako Bihiro, who has like what, maybe 13, 14 years of experience. Shin Suzuki, I don't know what, but yes, they get the job done. I would have assumed that in some capacity it would have been Chi, Sayaka, and Tokiko to pick up the win, but no, it was Obi that was able to pick up the win when she rolled up Tokiko, and just like that, one, two, three, it was over. Now, our next match, of course, we have Soy and Miya Yatsuba finally teaming up for quite some time. As you know, we often see Soy and Miya team up, and they were former tag champions, don't forget that. But they're facing a team that has far more better experience than them, and that is Emi Sakura and Balin Aki, which. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, basically, it was interesting to see Balinaki and Emi Sakura team up. Obviously, because if you guys remember, Balinaki did defeated her in the big match that happened last year. But however, of course, they're a bit more aggressive. They know how to take out their opponents, and it was in fact Emi Sakura that picked up the win when she applied the Magistral on Mia, and just like that, one, two, three, it was over. However, what's interesting, as soon as it was over, well, Balanaki decided to give her a striking kick right in the chest, and just like that, he just walked off. You know, Balanaki is who he is, that's how he rolls. Now, our main event is, of course, Hiroyi Yawada taking on Mei Shruga. Obviously, this is a teacher versus student member. I would like to believe that Hiroyi was not trained by Emi Sakura. Remember, there were some wrestlers that were not trained by Emi Sakura at all, but mostly by Mei Shruga. But it was a pretty good match. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Hiroyi really, really put up a fight. She tried to divert every maneuver that May would try to apply on her, but however, May actually took her out with a submission, and Hiroyi had no choice but to give up. Now, for our Jonkin tournament, well, I wasn't too sure how this was going to play out, but the last two that made it all the way to the finals was Miya Yatsuba and Sayaka. And I wasn't too sure how this was going to go. I mean, these two ladies have won the Jonkin tournament, but this time it was in fact Miya that walked away when she applied rock, and Sayaka applied scissors. So you know how that is. Rock beats scissors. Just like that. So it was a pretty good show. So we are expecting more shows coming from them very soon. So stay tuned for that. But right now, we'll end things here with ChocoPro, and we move on with, of course, Stardom. Okay, Stardom. As you know, they return back to Korakuen Hall for another Stardom Nighter in Korakuen 2026 in February. This happened on the 13th of February, which was a Friday, of course. We opened up with Ane Kanaya teaming up with Aya Sakura, and I have to say it was a pretty good team up. They almost have like the same cheerful tone. But I did mention a part of me would think that she would join the Cosmic Angels. That's one of the things that kind of gets in my head. But I'll explain a little bit about that. But they're facing against, of course, Fuwa-chan and Azuki. Now, obviously, to me the edge goes to Fuwa-chan and Azuki. If you guys know this already, Azuki is Fuwa-chan's senpai. She has been the one training her to become a pro wrestler. And don't forget, she in her debut match, she actually teamed up with Azuki, and not to mention in her re-debut, she challenged her. And of course, Azuki has always been very supportive of her. She's always been encouraging her, always stand by her side when she needs to do something. And that's one of the things that makes them unique. But as for Aya and Ane Kanaya, well, I know they might have teamed up before, but this was something different because there's always the bond where you have to establish. And I have to say, it was a pretty good match. But however, Fuwa-chan surprised me when she applied the Shining Wizard onto Kanaya, and just like that, one, two, three, over. Now, our next match is Rian versus Natsupoi. Now, remember, Rian, as you know, members of EXV are no longer together. They basically disband. But it's an interesting match between the two of them for obvious reasons, because many of you may not remember back in April of last year, Natsupoi and Saru Anu were, of course, involving themselves in some plannings, like, of course, the master verse with the apprentice appreciation. And it was Rianne who approached them about that, about she wants to be part of it. And she teams up with Natsupoi's mentor, Kaoru Itu. And of course, she allowed it. And and I have to say that it's interesting that they team up. And this is not the last time they teamed up. They have teamed up before recently in one of the previous Korakuen Hall events. But however, Rihanna is facing someone who has far more better experience, had better, how do I say, far more better, of course, what she's gonna do in the ring. And unfortunately, Natsupoi was able to apply the fairy ring, and just like that, one, two, three, it was over. Now, part of me would think, much like Anakanaya, I wouldn't be surprised either if Rianne decides to join the Cosmic Angels. I mean, I can tell that she would like to learn something from Natsupoi. So we'll see how that rolls up, because I'm sure many people are asking now that EXV is done, where are the other girls going to go? Where is Micah going to do? We know she's in the singles action. We know that Hanako and Waka uh, or Xena, what they're going to do now since EXV are now disbanded. We'll just have to wait and see. But a part of me would like to think, a small part, is thinking that probably Rihanna would join the Cosmic Angels. And I think that's something that Natsuko would do, and I'm sure in her mind she will say, this is what Tam would want, is to expand even further. Now, our next match, we have tag team action. We have Kyoko Furuzawa and, once again, Maki Ito. Some people are now calling them the Ito Respect Army, which obviously was something that Ito has applied back in Tokyo Pro Wrestling, but they're facing a team that obviously they have teamed up obviously many times in Tag League. From God's Eye, Rana Igami, and Tomoaki Honma, I like to call them the Karate Girls, of course, which they have that in their background. And obviously they have better, of course, cohesion and better bonding than, of course, Furuzawa and Ito, because we know they have teamed up a few times, and we know they don't have that straight bonding just yet, and they're getting there. I feel like they would be a perfect faction, those two, but Rani Agami and Inaba are in fact are far more better team than them. Not to be disrespectful, but it's just obvious. But it was in fact Yagami that picked up the win onto Furuzawa by a pinfall, and just like that, one, two, three, it was done. Now, our next match, we have the ladies coming from CML. We have India Sioxis teaming up with Tabitha. Many of you may have remembered she has appeared before in Stardom. She even competed for the future belt against, I think it was, I don't remember who, but anyway, yes. They're facing against Cena and Micah. Obviously, a team that always, that in my opinion, have a much better team up and understanding. But in the end, it was Micah with the Michinoku driver on Tabitha, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, we have the team of God's Eye, consistent of Kyoku Kotatsu, Manami uh, Hatono, Lady C, and Ami Sori. They take the full force of Neo Genesis, consistent of Azumi, Miyu Amasaki, Mei Sita, and Starlight Kid. Now, obviously, this is like nothing compared like what we just been seeing with maybe the Loca and EXV, but it was a pretty good match. There were some good moments that we would have expected. However, in the end, it was Amasaki with the Tenzai onto Lady C, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. Now, our next match, we have tag team match, and we have Waka Tsukiyama and Hanako. They're taking on Mi Vida Loca's um, Akira Kurigani and Azuki no Aoki. Now, of course, Waka and Hanako, former members of the EXV, I'm sure they haven't forgotten how they humiliated, they suffered in the hands of Mi Vida Loca. But however, Kurigani, I have to say, she has a grudge and axe to grind against Hanako, which is something very common. But we did see Hanako Aoki, no, Aoki with the air raid crash onto Waka, and just like that, 1, 2, 3 was over. But however, we did see the brawl between Hanako and Kurigani. So obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if Kurigani issues the challenge for the future belt in the next New Blood show or whenever it's the right appropriate time. So we'll just have to wait and see. Now, our next match is for the High Speed Championship. Yuna Mizumori defends it for a second time, and this time against someone who obviously has challenged for this belt but never successful enough to to win it, and that is Momo Kogo. Now, remember, not too long ago, of course, when Yuna Mizumori won this belt, she called out anybody from the back, and Momo was one of the few girls that stepped up, and of course, many of you saw that she made a pinfall against Yuna Mizumori in the Supreme fight in Osaka early this month, and that gave her the right to challenge for the belt, and that's how we got here. But I have to say, Momo really have impressed me so much. We have seen her grown, but she hasn't picked up that big win that she needs. Um, but however, it was Yuna Mizumori with the Supergirl move, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. And then we did see a post-match promo. Yuna did ask Momo why did she take so long to issue the challenge when she called out for competitors, and of course Momo had to admit that she was not fast enough. But Momo made it perfectly clear that this is not over for a long shot. That she will be still gunning for the high speed belt, and I'm sure Yuna knows it very well that she's going to be targeted no matter what. So we'll see what happens. We haven't heard yet who's going to be challenging her. I'm sure there's a list of wrestlers that want to challenge her for the belt. Now, our main event, as I mentioned, a 12-woman tag team match. We have 8 members consistent of Azusa Inaba, Fukigen Death, Rina, Raka, Natsuko Tora, and Konami. They take on the combination of the Cosmic Angels with Sayaka Kura and Sayuri Anu, Stars, Yuri Him and Hanan, and then finally God's Eye, Hina and Shuri. Now remember, recently Hina has issued a challenge against Konami for the white belt, the Wonder of Stardom Championship, which of course is something that definitely she's going to be aiming for. But of course, we know how hate operates. They like to use dirty tactics, soften the wrestlers outside, distract referees, whatever they can find. But however, we did see a mishap between Rina and Konami when Rina attempted to whip her own twin sister, but instead she got Konami instead, her own teammate. But Hina was able to take out Konami with the modified jackhammer, and then of course finish her off with the mat splash, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, she won. And of course, Hina had to put out a post-match promo, say some few words to Konami. I'm sure Konami's not happy that she lost to Hina, of course, who is the twin sister of her very own teammate. So because often the Konami said that Rina is far more better than both Rina and Hanan. So we'll see how that plays out too. But right now, we're done with Stardom. Let's move on with the next review, and that is, of course, TNA No Surrender. Okay, TNA No Surrender. This happened also on the Friday on February 13th. I mean, it's funny. Friday the 13th. I just thought about that now. Sorry, folks. I just things like that happen to me. But anyway, let's begin. We did have a battle royal for, of course, for anybody who will get a title opportunity for the TNA Knockouts World Title. So we have various ladies. Of course, we have Tessa Blanchard, Mila Moore, Victoria Crawford, Jody Threat. Who else is there? We did see Rosemary, um, Mara Shade, and all that. But however, the one thing that was really interesting is that Jody Threat was at the top of the turnbuckle while Victoria Crawford, of course, was outside the ring, and then somehow Myra, Mila Moore was ended up on the outside too, and they were playing a bit of a tug of war. But accidentally, Tessa Blanchard tried to break them free, but accidentally got her own teammates, the ones that could have helped her win, but nope, they were taken out. But what no one realized is that people thought I think everybody must have thought, except for the audience, if they paid attention very well, especially on TV, that Jody Threat somehow was able to hook her legs into the rope. And of course, it's funny that Tom said that it felt like more like the Witch of the Wizard of Oz. If you saw the one where the house planted on her, that kind of feels in that fashion. But however, it was Tessa thought in her mind that when she got rid of Mara Shade, she thought in her mind that she won the match. But what no one realized, no one mentioned Jody Threat was eliminated. She survived, and just like that, she tossed her out and she gets a title opportunity. So the real question is who's going to walk out? Would it be, of course, Ariana Grace or will it be Li Ying Lee? So we'll see how that turns out. Now, we did see our Jelly Roll in attendance. Many of you know who he is. He just recently won a Grammy Award and all that. So because, as you know, they were No Surrender was TNA was in Nashville, Tennessee, obviously. But yes, of course, the first title match was the TNA International Championship. Trey Miguel, as you all know, won the Feast or Fire briefcase that contained the title opportunity for this championship, and he faced it against NXT's very own Stacks. Now, of course, Stacks attacked him last time in order hopes that he will not win it. But of course, but the one thing we've been noticing is Ariana Grace. Well, we don't know what exactly is going on in her mind, but because she was getting involved, the referee caught her and just told her to take a hike. But however, we did see Miguel apply a shell shock, which is a move done by his mentor, Alex Shelley, and then he finished off with the fighting spiral onto Stacks. And just like that, uno, dos, tres, Trey Miguel is our brand new TNA International Champion, and he brought this title back home where it belongs. Now, before our next match, we did see AJ Francis showing up and all that. He thinks like he's a big star and all that. He even mentioned Jelly Roll and all that. But you know how AJ Francis is. It's all about his ego. But he decided to stick around to the next match to be commentary. But he's watching Mance Warner versus Mike Jackson, who is an older wrestler who's like in his 70s. And people say that he pulled off an amazing tope suicida for his age, but unfortunately, Mance Warner, in fact, put him away with the pain window, and just like that, it was over. But we did see a bit of respect between Warner and Jackson. And then, of course, uh, Steph Delanders and Warner confronted AJ Francis. I don't know what's it about, but things got a bit hectic. But sooner or later, I'm sure Mance Warner is going to deal with him sooner or later. Now, our next match is for the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team belts. Zaya Brookside, one half of the Angel Warriors, will team up with Indy Hartwell to take on the Elegance Brown, Heather and M. But however, we all know how this whole thing plays out. That Chihuahua, the Castaneri, keeps getting involved. So did Ash and Mr. Elegance. But however, it was the nip tuck onto Indy Hartwell that allowed by Heather to pick up the win. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. the Elegance brands retained the belt. But however, the party was cut short with the return of Hardcore Country. Well, the reason is that because if you saw very closely, Indy Hartwell's foot was already on the rope, but it was pulled away by Heather herself, so the ref wouldn't see it. But Mickey James saw it, and of course, she doesn't care who Ash or the rest of Elegance brand it is. I'm sure they're gonna be complaining and bitching about it like little girls about how the moment was taken from it. But don't ever mess with the queen of hardcore country. So that's the way I see it. Now, our next match, as you know, we have BDE taking on Eric Young. Now, remember, Eric Young is on a mission to cleanse TNA from its corporate stooges and puppets and all that. And he wants BDE, of course, as you know, to become his follower. But BDE rather be his own person. Like he said, look, I'm willing to admit, yeah, there's politics involved. I don't like it. But he's not interested in being involved in something that doesn't concern him. But of course, Eric Young wasn't gonna like that. But man, it was a fantastic match. I mean, I didn't expect a whole lot from BD, but he was amazing, and I thought, why not? But unfortunately, Eric Young took him out with the power driver, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, as you know, Tessa Blanchard, I had a feeling that she was going to bitch about how she lost. She confronts Jody Threat. Of course, she's not happy because deep down she felt it should have been her winning. She should have known better that Jody Threat was able to hold on, but nope. So there's going to be a match with them possibly this coming week. We'll see. Now, our next match, we have the TNA Knockouts World Title. Li Ying Li defends it against Ariana Grace. This was a match that was brought upon by her father, director of Authority, Santino Marella. And some people think that this was a mistake. But of course, Ariana Grace really pulled her through. She was playing a little dirty. But the one thing that was interesting is that Danny Luna showed up. No one has seen her. Referees and security tried to take her back because, as you know, Danny Luna recently, not too long ago, she was supposed to have a title shot, and she's feel like, why the hell did I got skipped over? You know, and I'm sure she's not gonna stop until she gets what she it rightfully belongs to her. But of course, we did see the middle rope use onto, of course, Li Ying Li, and then of course, um, Ariana applied the Cobra, then a knee strike, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, brand new TNA Knockouts World Champion, and now that belt is in the hands once again of NXT talent. I mean, the last person who held it was none other than Kalani Jordan, so she's the second one so far from NXT to claim that belt. But I'm sure sooner or later, I mean, we have uh, Jody Threat and Danny Lewis, probably the two people who should be bringing it back. Now, our next match, we have the Order of no. When our next segment, we see BDE in the back, just chilling until he was approached by Rich Swann. So Rich Swann, I have to say, he was impressed by BDE, how he was able to hold on against the world-class maniac Eric Young. And of course, they decided to end their night by playing video games, which is something that Nick Bennett and a few others don't appreciate. But hey, boys will be boys. Now, our next match, this was our semi main event, is the Order of Four, consisting of Agent Zero, or should I say Agent Brainless, teaming up with the Dumb Hands, Jason Hodge and John Skyler, and of course, the so called person thinks that he's the president of TNA, Mustafa Ali. They take on the combined forces of the Righteous, Vincent and Dutch, and the Hardys, our current TNA Tag Team Champions. Now, of course, there was going to be interference coming from Tasha Steelz, like always. But one thing that was awesome is the throwdown between Zero and Dutch, two huge guys. But, however, this match ended with Matt Hardy ended up on the wrong side of the 450 splash by Mustafa, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Order 4 picked up the win. But, however, Elijah showed up with a coffin guitar case casket. Basically, Mustafa Ali has had it. He tried to put him in, but he ran through the hills like the coward he is. So we'll see how that turns up. Now, our next match, which is our main event, Nick Bennett teams up with Eddie Edwards to take on Leon Slater and Mike Santana. Now, remember, Nick Bennett is, of course, who was one half of the Collier Shaw Gauntlet winner along with Frankie Kazarian, and he can ask for a title shot. And then, of course, there's uh, Eddie Edwards, who had the briefcase for the TNA World Title. He could cash in anytime he wants. So Mike Santana knows he has targeted on his back. But however, there's the whole thing that Daria Ray mentioned about Leon Slater, that he has the option to do option C. If you guys remember, that's where you can cash in your X Division title and get a shot of the TNA World Title. So that's something. I don't think Leon Slater is going to do it, but Daria thinks that he should. But however, of course, this match took a turn when the system tried to get involved in every way possible. Macklin even showed up and attacked Mike Santana, and they continued the brawling, leaving Leon on his own until Moose showed up and clean house, took out the system, leaving, of course, Leon and Nick Meredith one-on-one. However, Leon Slater has been unsuccessful in defeating him, but one stroke of luck, he was able to defeat him by applying the Swanton Bomb and the Swanton 450, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. He finally get his win. So we'll see how things will roll up for him. So right now we are officially done with TNA. Let's move on to our last and final review, AEW Grand Slam Australia. Okay, AEW Grand Slam Australia. As you know, they made their way back to Sydney once again. We opened up with the AEW Continental Championship. Now, this is a bit of a rematch, not only because the titles involved, as a match that was, of course, as you probably can guess, where John Moxley, as you know, lost to Takeshita. Basically, it's more like one trying to rectify, to right that wrong of that loss. But Takeshita, as you know, made a play for the title, so that's the whole thing, and the point as well, you know. And of course, this is one of those matches where John Moxley will try to do whatever it takes to take out Takeshita in order to do so. But unfortunately, nothing worked. You thought this match would have ended one way or the other, but it did not. But it ended in a time limit draw after 20 minutes. So basically, it sucks. And of course, we did see a brawl between the two of them. Well, Takeshita took the last laugh by applying the Raging Fire and telling him he got this. I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be another match between those two, because if I know John Moxley, he's not going to let this one go. He has to beat him to rectify that loss. That's the one thing that goes in his mind. So I wouldn't be surprised if this match will happen in Revolution. So we'll see. Now, our next title match, we did see, of course, the AEW Women's World Tag Team belts defended once again. The Babes of Wrath takes on Mega Bad. Now, we know they've been aiming. We know that since, of course, Megan Bain was unsuccessful to win these titles along with Marina Shafir, because at the time, Penelope Ford, her own tag team partner, was out due to an injury. And now they get an opportunity at these. And of course, don't forget, they got Mega Bad got this opportunity during Eliminator match, but they have, of course, you got to ask yourselves, can they pull it off? Well, of course they could try, but in the end, it was Harley Cameron that walked away with the win when she applied a backslide onto Penelope Ford, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, Babes of Wrath retained the belt. But however, out of nowhere, Lena Cross, who's also an Australian native, just like Harley Cameron, just showed up and took out both. And now, as you probably can see, she aligned herself with Megabad. I wouldn't be surprised if they formed their own group. And however, they were holding all three titles, the tag titles and the TBS. So basically, you can say that Megabad, along with Lena Cross, would aim for those belts. But the real question is when or where. When will it happen? We don't know. Now, our next match, this is a number one contendership for the AEW World Title at Revolution, which is the next pay per view. It's Andrade El Idolo versus Hangman, of course. Now, of course, that snake of a grass was going to be there. And guess what that bald headed goofball decides to bitch about? He's bitching about Aubrey Edwards not doing a good job as a referee. Of course he does. He thinks that he's some sort of superhero, that sort of thing. But he's a bald-headed narcissist. That's what he is. He thinks that he knows exactly how to know. He wants things done his way because he thinks that that's how it should be. But nope, things didn't go to plan because, of course, he had to be a dumbass. Runs up when he sees Andrade in danger, but it failed because we did see, of course, Andrade attempting to low blow Hangman, but Hangman decided to low blow him, and just like that, give him a buckshot lariat, and just like that, uno, dos, tres, adios, Andrade. So I'm sure Don Callis is going to be bitching and moaning and crying like a little girl about this. But that's another time. Now, our next match is a mixed tag team tornado match. Whoever loses the match who gets the pin. Well, you're about to get your head shaved. And it was Orange Cassidy versus Tony Storm versus the Death Riders, Wheeler Yuta and Marina Shafir. Now, of course, it's no secret that Orange Cassidy and Wheeler Yuta know each other pretty well, and we know that Marina Shafir has a problem towards Tony Storm. That's always been the bigger case, but Wheeler Yuta makes me sick. He actually pile drive Tony Storm on top of the cases right on there just to do it because he thinks he can, because he doesn't care. And of course, Orange Cassidy went on his own to do things until Tony Storm showed up. Now, Wheeler Yuta, I have to say, he was a real dumbass. He decided to try to take care of it, but nope, he got kicked in the gonads for that. If you guys don't know what I'm referring to, I'm talking about that. Yep, the most embarrassing thing that any man has to go through. But however, OC and of course Tony the Timeless took care of business. But it was Timeless who put away that idiot Yuta with, of course, the Storm Zero, and just like that, it was over. And then, of course, Wheeler Yuta is the one who gets his head shaved. And then Mina Shirakawa brought in the stool for the barber. But Wheeler Yuta decided to run to the case. But Moxley told him, hey, you lost. You get your head shaved. So just like that, he had to listen to him, or else you get paid for it. And of course, Mina gets a piece of his hair after what that scumbag did to her this past Wednesday. So basically, Yuta, you get bald. Now, our next match is the TNT title in a ladder match between Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher. Now, this match came around because, as you know, Kyle Fletcher decided to be a big baby because he wants to reclaim the TNT title in a place that he feels is more comfortable, is to have a hero's welcome with the TNT title. That was his bigger point. And he faces a man he lost the belt to because, as you probably can guess, just like, of course, Jon Moxley, he definitely wants to rectify that loss. And this, of course, Kyle Fletcher claims this will be their final chapter. But man, the match was brutal. You would have assumed something was going to go happen, but no. Kyle Fletcher was able to pull down the rope and the belt, and just like that, he retained the belt. Now, our next match is the AEW World Title, Brody King versus MJF. Now, if you guys saw what happened also last time in the much recent show, of course, where fans chanted F Ice. Well, Australia did it again because, as you know, they don't like ice either. That was the whole point. But match was pretty good. But however, Brody King was suffering from a knee pain, and Bandito, thank God he showed up to tell him, do not give up, do not give up, because of course Bandito did not tap out. He continued on giving MJF the finger. But however, things didn't go, but however, we did see a moment of the diamond ring being in play, but oops, he got caught. And then, of course, MJF applied the heat seeker, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he retained the belt. But however, Hangman showed up and had him sign the contract because they have a date with Destiny at Revolution. So we'll see what happens until then. So that's pretty much it. So we're done with our reviews. Let's move on to, of course, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news update. So let's get started with upcoming events. As you know, on the 27th of February, they'll be making their way to New Jersey for New Japan for New Beginning USA. Now, 2 title matches have been announced. The first one is, of course, was mentioned during the New Beginning in Osaka. The AEW national title will be defended. Ricochet defends it against, of course, Taiji Shimori. But however, Ricochet's teammates part of the demand. The GOA issue a challenge for the IWGP Tag Team belts currently in the possession of the Knockout Brothers, Oscar and Yuto Ice, and of course it's now official that match is going to happen. Then, of course, we have the Italian promotion SAJ Wrestling. Will have their upcoming event called Grandeur Warped that will happen on March 14th in Milan, Italy. However, they announced that Katsuya Morishima will be participating, and I have to say I'm happy for him. I know that there's been he'll be doing a lot of traveling all over Europe, and that's going to be a good thing for him since he will be a full-time member of the roster in WXW. House of Glory has announced for the Super Clash event that will happen on the 4th of March. Uh, they announced that Sammy Guevara will be taking on the Amazing Red, so that's going to be a banger of a match. And then finally, West Coast Pro. As you know, we have the West Coast versus the World. They just announced the legend, of course, and as JR once said, she's the kind of woman you don't see making biscuits, and that is Aja Kong taking on Miko Alana. So that's going to be fun. Now, this past Friday, we have it was announced that Yoshi wrestler Mio Momono has celebrated her 10th anniversary as a pro wrestler. Yeah, so her anniversary ended up on a Friday. Um, if you guys know this, she is a AAW champion, an Oz Academy openweight champion, four-time Sendai Girls Tag Team champion, two-time Wave Tag Team champion, and AAW Tag Team champion. So basically, that's her resume right there as a champion as well. Now, Brody King, as you know, many people were questioning was Brody King not there this past Wednesday due to what happened because of the F chance? No, they just basically didn't want him there because they want him to focus on his match for Grand Slam Australia. That's pretty much what was confirmed by Tony Khan himself. So it had nothing to do with the higher ups or anything. They just didn't want to put him in anything until we get to Grand Slam, and that was the point. Now, many may remember Jazz. She was part of the WWE for a while. She even appeared in TNA, NWA, and whatnot. Well, it was announced that she is now part of the WWE Performance Center coaching staff. So basically, as you know, she has 30 years of experience, so she'll be very helpful for the wrestlers of WWE's future. So we'll see where that goes from there. Now, many of you may know this person, Fit Finlay. He is the father of David Finlay and his other son, Uriah Connors, who's currently on NXT. And this is what he said. David Finlay, what's next? I'm proud of you of the journey you have been on, and I'm excited for the next chapter. Your immense in wrestling is undeniable. Fourth generation, you can't slow that juggernaut. So basically, as you know, he's a proud father seeing his son what he's going to do. So we're very happy for him. Fightful Selects just reported that Jake Doyle, as you know, who made his debut not too long ago, but now he ended up injured. He had a very successful surgery this week to repair the injury, so he is now off. We just don't know when he'll be back, so stay tuned for that. Now, if you guys remember, I mentioned that WWE held tryouts, and amongst the name was Promise Braxton. Well, Natty, or as we know her as Natalia Neidhart, had this to say. If Promise Braxton is not signed by WWE in the next year, I'll be blown away. So basically, she wants WWE to sign her. So you ask yourselves, do you want to see that? Because I'm sure uh, many people will question that. Now, Fightful Select reports a very interesting thing. This was coming from CNN. They're saying that, of course, that Warner Brothers Discovery owns a minority shareholder with AEW. So basically, they have a small say whatsoever, that sort of thing. So it's been confirmed now that it's true. Finally, of course, Tomoaki Honma, many of you know him from New Japan. Well, apparently, he's facing one of the most misfortunes that he's been in. Now, remember, he was out of action due to an injury, and now he's dealing with another one where he fell victim into a bank transfer scam. Next up is, a mini flame war at many things. So basically, there's a lot of things. I feel sorry for him, and so I don't know. Hopefully, things can work out. And I know that he had to deal with a lot of things. I know he had a problem with an ex girlfriend in the past. So he had a lot of misfortunes, and I feel saddened for him, that he had to go through that. Hope things can work out for him, and I'm praying for him and for his family as well. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, well, I haven't decided yet. I know there's another Stardom show taking place, so we'll see how this goes. And I'm considering maybe try to finish up with the Mighty Gold much recent shows and try to catch up with many of the Japanese wrestling scene and other things if it's possible. So we'll see how things will go the next time. So until then, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye and have a nice day.